Hi. So, what is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Fate here, of course. So, sorry for the late update on this video as I am quite busy and fed up with myself and as well as something else. And also, yeah, I was planning about my future plans, so it took me a while to get off the situation now. Like it's probably like 10 something at night, so like I was actually quite free. Yeah, I only had this free time to like make this video before I get busy again in the morning. So yeah, this is just a slight update on my current status. So I wish I could like continue to make more videos about like for my channel, more content, right? So in today's video we will be talking about Genshin Impact. Yes, and it's like a few days after the second half of version 3.2. So of course, the second half have probably like new content and stuff, of course, but more people are paying attention to new character banners, of course. Those who are more interested in getting characters who they wanted, or according to like that who fits their playstyle. So in today I'll be talking about um these banners, the two of these banners, which is the Yae Miko banner, and also the Tartaglia banner, which is also known as Childe. So what is it so good about these two? So just my personal opinion, okay? For those who are watching this video right now, you will probably be trash talking like, why you don't have Chao, you don't have Yae Miko, why are you making this review? Okay, so for information, yeah, I don't have Yae Miko, so I won't make a complete judgment or statement on her because I don't really have her and I don't really play her, so I'm not really expertise on her, so I won't be criticizing her or anything. Like uh for Yae Miko, I will just leave it there for you to make judgments. But for Tartaglia, I feel like I have the rights to speak about him, as I was actually playing Child or Tartaglia on my brother's account since his second banner. So it's actually been quite a while since I played Child and probably knew a lot about him throughout this whole time playing with him. And also, I'll be talking about the weapon banner, like whether is it worth it or whether is it not. So without further ado, let's start my um can I say review or whatever it is. So first we'll be talking about Yae Miko. So for Yae Miko, in my personal opinion, she's an electro character which runs a catalyst weapon and her legs are white. Okay, never mind. Uh, so Yae Miko is a sub DPS, off field sub DPS with an electro vision and a catalyst weapon. So for her main kit, like the way that is used to play her is obviously the sub DPS because she can barely go on field. So I'll be explaining about her talents so you will understand why is she like a slight off field DPS and like hardly can go on field. So for her normal attack is just like three attacks that deal electro damage, and charge attack and punch attack as normal. The scaling are like decent, not too decent, but intermediate I should say. So for her elemental skill, so what does her elemental skill is to Yae, it periodically strikes one nearby opponents with lightning, dealing electro damage. When there are other Seisho Sakuras nearby, their level will increase, boosting damage dealt by these lightning strikes. The skill has 3 charges, a maximum of 3 Seisho Sakura can exist simultaneously. The initial level of each Seisho Sakura is 1, and the initial highest level each Sakura can reach is 3. If a new Seisho Sakura is created too close to an existing one, the existing one will be destroyed. It means that this skill, you technically can have 3 of them exist on the field, at most 3 of them, right? And if you create another one like on the field, it will instantly destroy another one to create a new one. So by the way, by putting each of these totem on the field, you will actually increase the level if I'm not wrong. So as you can see here, like the different level of the different totems will actually have higher scaling. So as you can see, the Seisho Sakura damage level 1 is like already 60% for level 1, which is actually quite high, and level 2 you can increase it again. And also level 3 you have 94.8%, which is actually really high for this scaling. Imagine you keep striking them at like an insane scaling, and which is off field, and you are dealing like damage to your main DPS. So in my opinion, this is actually a really high scaling, and which is easy to proc as long as you don't leave your totems too far. And the duration is 14 seconds for a totem, which is actually quite long. When you look at the cooldown, it's actually 4 seconds. And it says you have 3 charges, means that you only have like a 12-second cooldown for everything for it to full charge again. So it's not actually not too hard about it. So for elemental burst, it's actually quite simple to understand. Just ignore all this dog shit, right? Means her elemental burst, what it will do is it's like technically release a thunderbolt. Okay, it's like releasing a thunderbolt, and after releasing the thunderbolt, she will do Tenko Thunderbolt damage according to how much totem you have left on the field. So for example, she will strike 1 time. If you have 1 totem on the field, she will strike an extra time, and the extra time damage will be considered as Tenko Thunderbolt damage. So it means that if you have maximum of 3 totems on the field, she can strike another extra 3 times, and that's where you see like all the whale Miko scaling, like 6-digit Miko ulti or whatever shit it is. Yeah, but however, this thing comes at a relatively high energy cost, like 90%. Yeah, so actually her elemental skill can continuously produce particles, so it shouldn't be really a big problem unless you just tend to zero ER and all in crit damage attack. Yeah, then that's a different case. Right, so her cooldown is quite long, 22 seconds for an insta burst. So I think, yeah, this is more like a true burst DP, true burst elemental burst. Okay, so to her Ascension 1 talent, so it says when casting Great Secret Art Tenko Kenshin, which is the elemental burst, its Seisho Sakura destroy resets the cooldown for 1 charge of Yakan evocation Seisho Sakura. It means that if you have 3 totems on the field and you cast your elemental burst when it strikes 3 times, you'll instantly get back 3 totems. Yep, that's how it works. So for her Ascension 2 talents, every point of elemental mastery Yae Miko possesses will increase Seisho Sakura damage by 0.15%. Means that stacking EM will increase the elemental skill damage. Yeah. But however, people did calculations on this, like they say stacking elemental mastery on Yae is not a really effective thing. But things have changed quite much since Dendro released already and Aggravate existed, so this thing is probably like quite nice for Miko, I should say. And also her passive talents has a 25% chance to get 1 regional character talent material base material excluded when crafting. The rarity is that of the base material, so means that you craft a golden book, she will give you a golden book of a random random nation, I guess. Regional character talent material. Okay, so I can't show her artifacts here, but according to my recommendation, you can probably use the Thundering Fury. Wait, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Where is it? Is I so here, yes, you see Thundering Fury. So 2-bit Thundering Fury is a thing. It as it increases electro damage bonus by 15%. So since you have two piece, and another two piece will probably be either something that adds attack percent, like Shimenawa, Vermilion Echoes, and Gladiator, and something else that just adds attack. Or if you don't have an attack, you can choose something that adds elemental mastery, like Wanderer's Troop, and where is it? Yeah, and the Dreaming Steel Blue. I mean Gilded Dreams. You can either give Wanderer or Gilded Dreams. As they add EM, which I said just now, you can probably increase the elemental skill damage, and meanwhile increasing elemental reaction damage just like Aggravate. Right? So for those who are doing four piece, I like to say Thundering Fury, sadly, it doesn't really fit on Yae, as she don't really need this cooldown for her elemental skill, as the cooldown is like already bypassing the, no, I mean the cooldown is already shorter than the time that the totem can stay on field, and this thing cannot proc off field, so this thing is probably a big no. I mean the cooldown on the four piece cannot be proc on field, so this is probably not really recommended. So after like so long, from what my friends and some of my uh like research not researchers, like theory crafters, okay, they say four piece Gilded Dreams are actually quite good, or should I say best in slot for her. So what does this thing actually do is the two piece adds EM, 80 EM, which is quite nice. You can increase elemental reaction damage and also the elemental skill damage. And the four piece provides attack percent and EM based on your party member's type. But however, both like buffs are suitable for Miko, since her skills on attack itself, meanwhile also affected by EM. So this piece, in my personal opinion, is really really good for Yae Miko herself. So for her artifact stats, it will probably be um the flower and feather will be always fixed. It will be HP and attack. So for the sense, you can go for attack percent probably, as the attack percent value scaling is higher than an EM sense in this case. And the goblet, you can go for an electro damage bonus. And meanwhile, the circlet, you can go for probably a crit damage circlet, because I remember if she ascends with crit rate, if I'm not wrong. If not, you can try to balance the crit ratio by giving a crit or crit damage. Depends on personal opinions. Right. So for Yae, her weapons are actually quite flexible. Any weapon will do on her, like whatever it is. Like the 5 stars are normally all suitable on her. Like any weapon that is, as long as it adds damage, it fits her so well. Like for 4 stars, she can also have multiple choices. Like as she most of the catalysts now are like very universal. Like let me check my back for a while. No, just my character. Like so, I have Skyward Atlas and other 5 star weapons like Lost Prayers, Summit Shaper. No, wait, not Summit Shaper. Memory of Dust and whatever so on. Right. So for sacrificial fragments, she can use too. Yeah, she can use. But the weapon passive might be slightly sad, as she don't really need a refresh on the cooldown. And for fulfillment, she can use it too, gives ER, but however, you gain EM on losing 5% attack up to 25%. So depends on person, like do you rather want this weapon or not. And you can also use Old Swan Eye. This is actually an event weapon, if you guys don't know. You can get this weapon from previous ones. And you can also use Eye of Perception. The weapon passive might be a bit copium, but the stats made up for it too. So the Wit Sieve, you can use it too. This is actually one of the best 4 star weapons in my opinion for her. Adds a ton of crit damage and have a decent base attack. I think it's 510 at level 90 if I'm not wrong. So Mine is refinement 5. Refinement 1 just divide the value by half, okay? When the character takes the field, they'll gain a random theme song for 10 seconds. Yeah, so in these 10 seconds, your RNG get one of these buffs. So if you get the first buff, your attack is increased by 120%. If you get the second buff, your increase elemental damage by 96%. Just divide this by half. The third one, interlude, your EM is increased by 480. Yes. So this is actually a quite crap weapon no matter what you get on Miko. So next we have the local tails. The weapon passive is also same copium as this. So it's just the stats normally for players who have this weapon. I honestly don't know why would people just use this weapon. Right. So for prototype Ember, yeah, this is not a really good choice. Unless you're running a healing Yae, I really don't know. So Fitness Codex works too, gives ER and crit hits generate elemental particles, which can probably help charge her own ulti or your teammates ulti faster. So for Frostbearer, this is just another stats. For stats only, the weapon passive is quite sad. Like until the game now, there's still no news of any cryo catalyst. And also another good one is the Hakushin Ring, which is a craftable one, same as the Fruit of Fulfillment and the Frostbearer and the Prototype. So Hakushin Ring gives ER, which is quite good. After the character equip this with this weapon triggers an electro elemental reaction, which means that you can proc aggravate, you can proc electro charge, overload, or whatever. Nearby party members of an elemental type involved in the elemental reaction receive a 20%. This is at R5. R1 is 10% elemental damage bonus for the element lasting 6 seconds. So this is actually really good. You can kind of like help your teammates like as a support or stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much. So for 3 stars, I don't really have any recommendations. As you have 4 stars, like, why not just use the 4 stars? If you want 3 stars, you can probably choose Emerald Orb. Yeah, you can use Emerald Orb, like adds EM and something. So that's pretty much all about her weapons. So now let's talk about the constellations. So as normal, she have constellations, like 6 constellations. So her first constellation is every time the elemental burst activates a Tenko Thunderbolt, Yae Miko will restore 8 elemental energy for herself. So in this case, you can restore up to like 24 elemental energy. So her C2, oh wait, I forgot to mention the C1 is actually quality of life changes, like you can gain her elemental burst energy faster. So for her C2, Fox's Mooncaller, okay. So Sexual Sakura start at level 2 and created, their max level is increased to 4. Yes, she can bypass the limit and hit level 4. And their attack range is increased by 60%. Which means like you can technically just map hack and let your totem become a freaking turret and just shoot them all the way. Yeah. So her C3 is increased elemental skill level, not a surprise. Her C4 is when Sexual Sakura Lightning hits opponents, which is the elemental skill. The electro damage bonus of all nearby party members is increased by 20% for 5 seconds. So it says for all nearby party members, which means herself is also included because they didn't mention like not including herself. So for this one, it's more to like her own damage increase, or she can buff other electro damage or electro element teammates on your team. So for her C5, it's her elemental burst like damage increase, level increase by 3. So her C6 is quite broken. The Sexual Sakura's attack will ignore 60% of the opponent's defense. It means the elemental skill just technically get a Raiden seed too. Yeah, it just ignores 60% of the opponent's defense. Like, so it's like insane scaling. Like, keep striking like at least 60% of the raw damage. So it's actually quite insane. So for my personal opinion, you can get it's either you go for C2 or C0, right? Don't even think of C1. As C0 is still very usable already. So you can go for C2, C3, C4, and then C6. C5 is not really recommended cause like her main kit surrounds around the elemental skill, so the elemental burst is like more for an instant burst of damage. So her main kit is still elemental skill. So like C2, C3, C4, and C6 is like really important after all, if you really want to consider constellations. So that's all I want to say about Yae Miko. Now, I would like to talk about Tortilla. No, wait, Tartaglia. Yes. Okay, so Tartaglia, known as Childe, is one of the most special characters, I should say, among both characters in the game. So he is a Hydra character and wields a bow. Yeah, a bow, but he can play melee. So Essence with Hydro damage bonus, if I'm not wrong. He Essence with Hydro damage bonus. You need to kill a bunch of Oceanists to get him. Hope you don't get rage hit for those who are drawing him. So his normal attack performs up to 6 consecutive shots with a bow. So his skilling is actually quite high, I should say. When like if I'm not mistaken, he has the highest skilling under Yoimiya, which is Yoimiya relies on normal attack to like proc and all this. And his charge attack perform a more precise aim shot with increased damage. While aiming, the power of Hydra will accumulate on the arrowhead. An arrow fully charged with the torrent will deal Hydra damage and apply the Riptide status. Okay, so Riptide here is actually one of his biggest mechanics to play around him. Now you can't neglect the fact that Riptide existed. So opponents affected by Riptide will suffer from AoE Hydra damage effects when attacked by Tartaglia in various ways. Damage done in this way is considered normal attack damage. Riptide Flash, a fully charged aim shot that hits an opponent affected by Riptide, deals consecutive bolts of AoE damage. Can occur once every 0.7 seconds. Riptide Burst, defeating an opponent affected by Riptide, creates a Hydro Burst that inflicts the Riptide status on nearby opponent's head. So to make this easy to understand, it's like he have two stances, right? One is a bow stance, one is the melee stance. Melee stance I'll explain more later when I finish with all these talents. So plunging attack, normal, nothing much. Just need to remember that he can't do a plunging attack when he's in his elemental skill state. So what is his elemental skill set? So his elemental skill technically just turns him into a melee dude. Yes, you had it right. And a bow character turns into a melee character. So in this stance, Tartaglia's normal and charge attack are converted to Hydra damage and cannot be overwritten by any other elemental infusion and change as follows. Normal attack performs up to 6 consecutive Hydro strikes, like as you can see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. And he also releases charge attack. His charge attack actually have 2 states of damage. And it takes like quite less stamina compared to other melee characters, if I'm not wrong. And after 30 seconds, or when the ability is unleashed again, the skill will end. Tartaglia will return to his range stance, which is the bow state, and this ability will enter CD. The longer Tartaglia stands in his melee stance, the longer the CD. Yeah, this is why you've probably seen a meme like when he have a Hydro debuff and his skill can reach up to 1 minute. Yes, which is 130 fucking seconds. If the return to the range states occur automatically after 30 seconds, the CD is even longer, which is like if it's auto triggered like to turn off the melee stance, you'll receive an extra penalty, that's all. Yeah, as you can see, this is technically the scaling. So what I want to say here is the scaling himself for elemental skill is totally independent from what you see in the normal attack. So this means that his normal attack, which is the bow state, has its own scaling compared to melee stance. So his stance change damage. Yeah, the moment he changed to this stance, there's an instance of damage, and after all the damage is based on your elemental skill scaling, while not this scaling. This scaling and elemental skill scaling is two independent scaling sources. So as you can see here, stance change damage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits, charge attack all normal, except you see something called Riptide Slash. Meanwhile, Riptide Slash has its own like scaling compared to Riptide Burst and Riptide Flash, if I'm not wrong. So the max duration you can hit on elemental skill is 30 seconds. So 30 seconds is actually quite long, but you need to be prepared to receive the penalty, which is like 6 to 36 seconds, depends on how long you stay in this state. So if you hit 30 seconds and above maximum, you have a 45-second penalty. Yeah. So make sure you like keep an eye or keep a mind on calculating the time and rotations and stuff. So for his combat talent, Havoc Obliteration, right? So what he does is just it's also a single instant burst. So what it does is he has two states. One is the range elemental burst state, and one is the melee elemental burst state. So range stands Flash of Havoc. Swiftly fires a Hydro imbued magic arrow, dealing AoE Hydro damage and applying the Riptide status. Returns a portion of its energy cost after use. And for melee stance, Light of Obliteration performs a slash with a large AoE, dealing massive Hydro damage to all surrounding opponents, which trigger Riptide Blast. Riptide Blast, when the obliterating waters hit an opponent affected by Riptide, it clears their Riptide status and triggers a Hydro explosion that deals AoE Hydro damage. Damage dealt in this way is considered elemental burst damage. Means that right there are two types of Riptide status. So one is the Riptide Flash, where you can like apply to enemies by full charge aim shot it. And another one you can have is Riptide Slash, which is like after the damage you like the Riptide damage you apply on the enemy. So if I'm not wrong, it clearly says like Riptide Burst. So there's like Riptide Flash, Burst, and also Slash. So Flash is the one you proc in the arrow state, so it has its own independent scaling also, which is 12.4 times 3. And Riptide Burst is the damage when your Riptide kills or you kill an enemy, or when an enemy dies, they trigger the Riptide again. That's the Riptide Burst, which deals damage to surrounding enemies and apply new Riptide on them again. So for Riptide Slash, it's the moment like when you slash enemies with your elemental skill, then you will proc Riptide Slash. So when you kill enemy in any state, they will proc Riptide Burst and will apply Riptide to surrounding enemies. And that's the place where you see a lot of people make satisfying child videos. Like you gather them up, you proc all the Riptide, and you burst all of them. Yeah, that's how you make satisfying videos. So for different Riptide, there are also different ICDs or proc intervals. So for Riptide Flash, it's stated here like Riptide Flash can be occurred every 0.7 seconds. So means that this Riptide Flash here can proc every 0.7 seconds. Meanwhile, this Riptide Slasher, in melee stance, damage dealt this way is considered elemental skill damage and can only occur once every 1.5 seconds. Yep. So the interval proc for Riptide Slash, which is the one in his elemental skill state, is a 1.5 second cooldown interval. And for the bow full charge shot state, it's a 0.7 second interval. And when enemies die in the proc Riptide Burst, both the states are considered like according to one of these scaling here. This one and only scaling here, okay. So the Riptide duration for his bow state is actually shorter, like there's only 10 seconds compared to when you're proccing in melee stance, which is actually really high. Like I remember the Riptide like exists longer. Wait, no. It's 10 seconds by default, right? So his first ascension talent, it says extends Riptide duration by 8 seconds. which means he will end up having an 18-second riptide duration, which is actually quite long and good, as like he can probably just like prop riptide even his melee stance duration is over and let other teammates like continue his riptide like burst or something, like when they die and they continue riptide status to the other enemies. That's probably how. So when Tartaglia is in Foul Legacy Raging Tide, means his elemental skills melee stance. On dealing a crit hit, normal and charge attack apply the riptide status effect to opponents. So this this passive talent, I think most child people most child most people who play child, they probably didn't care about this talent here. So this talent is actually quite important. I'll explain on later why. This thing is so serious that it can affect your whole rotation. And weapon of Master of Weaponry increase your own party members' normal attack level by 1. Yep, I don't know how this really affects unless it's for Yoimiya and other DPS that relies on your normal attack. Alright, so so for his weapons, there's actually a lot of options. Right, after so long, like there are more and more weapons released, so there are also multiple choices of weapons, so I will just use Yae as weapon display. So for 5-star weapons, he can technically use a lot of them. Like for example, you can use the Thundering Pulse, but I don't have it here. Thundering Pulse technically can be used by him, like besides adding crit damage, it also increases attack and normal attack damage dealt. So no matter in what state, his elemental skill and both his normal attack can both take effect of the weapon passive. And also you can use Skyward Harp, increases crit rate and crit damage. You can also use his best in slot, his signature weapon Polar Star, adds a ton of crit rate and also increase like a ton of damage. I don't want to calculate, just go and search up yourself. There's too much attack on the weapon. Or you can use Hunter's Path, a bit copium but also works. So it adds a ton of crit rate and gains elemental damage bonus, and also increase charge attack based on your EM. Elegy is not really recommended unless you want to run a support child. I don't know. Aqua Simulacra, you can use it too. Like it's a stats monster, like the highest crit damage among bows. And also increase some weapon, increase some damage down no weapon. Okay. And you can also use a Moss bow, like the one I have here. Increase normal and charge attack. Yeah, increase normal and charge attack damage by 12%. After a normal or charge attack is fired, damage dealt it increases by a further 8% every 0.1 second, up to 5 times. So this weapon is quite good to like adds so much attack, as you can see, and has a quite high base attack. Same with the Thundering Pulse, if I'm not wrong. So for 4 stars, there are also multiple options. There's Hamayumi for craftable. As you can see, Hamayumi, although it has a quite low base attack, but it has a really high attack percent. And for mine is R5, it increases normal attack damage by 32% and charge attack damage by 24%. And if the character's energy is 100%, this effect is increased by 100%. Means if your energy is full, you'll deal 64% of your normal attack and 48% of your charge attack damage. So this one, this Hamayumi, I think it's usable too. And for Windbloom Ode, right? This is an event weapon. EM, you can probably play Electro Charge or Vaporized Child. Also, it says after using an elemental skill, increases your attack by 32% for 6 seconds. Although it's a bit low, but it can be like instant burst sub TBS or something. So for Prototype Crescent, it's more for stats only. The weapon passive is a bit sad, honestly. And you have Rust. This is a gacha weapon. So for Rust, what it does is increases normal attack by 80% for R5, but decreases charge attack damage by 10%. So if you focus more on normal attack but not charge attack, you can consider using Rust. And it adds attack too. So Fitting Twilight is an event weapon, gives ER, but the weapon passive is like not really suitable for Tartaglia. And Sacrificial Bow too, not really suitable. Same goes to Favonius Wobble, Compound Bow, and other bows. So one of the 4 stars I found interesting and quite fit to Childe or Tartaglia is the Stringless. So why do I say Stringless is actually quite good? So as I mentioned just now, Tartaglia have an individual scaling for his elemental burst and elemental skill compared to his normal attack. So he have an independent elemental skill scaling, which is not affected by the normal attack. So for Stringless, it perfectly fits, as it says increases elemental skill and elemental burst damage by 42%. And most importantly, the stats adds EM, which is not too bad. Like you can play sub DPS or elemental reaction child like Vaporize, Electrocharge, or whatever it is. So in my personal opinion, one of the best 4 stars is probably the Stringless, or you can use the Rust, and 5 stars you can technically just use anything, or you can use the Hamayumi too if you can keep the NG problem solved. So for Childe, his about his rotations is actually quite 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 should I say complicated? It's not complicated. It's like you really need to have a lot of experience to master his rotation and the way he works. So before I go into his teams and rotations, I would like to talk about his constellation first. So his C1 is the decreasing the cooldown of his elemental skill by 20%. So for those who want quality of line changes, you can consider this, to be honest. So his C2 is when opponents affected by Riptide are defeated, Tartaglia regenerates 4 elemental energy. So this is also more like a quality of life changes, as it really is like you can either have this or you can either don't have it, but however you still can play it. Yeah, that's how I rate this constellation. His C3 is actually quite good, increases his elemental skill level by 3, which means more damage and more skilling. So his C4, yes, this is one of the damn complicated constellations. So it says if Tartaglia is in 4 Legacy Raging Tides melee stance, triggers Riptide Slash against opponents on the field affected by Riptide every 4 seconds. Otherwise triggers Riptide Flash. Riptide Slashes and Riptide Flashes triggered by this constellation effect are not subject to the time intervals that would typically apply to these 2 Riptide effects, nor do they have any effect on those time intervals. Means if you are in melee stance, you proc Riptide Flash. If you are in range stance, you proc Riptide Slash. Yeah, that's technically all I want to say about it. So C5 increases about increases his elemental burst level by 3. And his C6, yeah, when the moment you got his C6, you can technically just ignore C1 as it doesn't really exist. So for his C6, when Havoc Obliteration is cast in melee stance, the cooldown of 4 Legacy Raging Tide, which is the elemental skill, is reset. This effect will only take place once Tartaglia returns to his range stance. So if you have a C6, of course the party rotation will be another different thing to say, right? So for now, I would like to talk about his teams and rotations. So for his team, right, let's just use this as an example. So for example, if this is Tartaglia, you can have the Tartaglia International or Childe International. So what does this team actually do is you can have a Kazuha or you can have a Sucrose. It's optional, depends on who do you have. Of course, Kazuha is slightly better, buffs direct elemental damage bonus. So for Bennett, what Bennett does is for an example, as the healer and also the damage buffer in the team, or you can just go full healer since you have another second support in your team. And for Xiangling, she'll be probably the off-field pyro or the one who dealt pyro damage according to how your child is. So for the animal character, it's either Sucrose or Kazuha. Or Venti, I'm not sure does Venti really work, as the elemental burst kind of suck people too high and can't really hit. So for Kazuha, here he will be buffing and also applying elements based on how or which element do you want to throw into. And for Sucrose, she will be focusing on increasing your team's EM, elemental mastery, which means more reaction damage. So for a child main role in this team, it's also optional. Like you can either make him become a Hydro on field, or you can make him as a driver for Xiangling. It's like he become a worker or the performer. Yeah. So that's he's technically team, like this is the new DPS team for him. Like the also the latest one still using, like the Child International. So there's actually an even older team, if I'm not wrong, which is like Child and Fischl, also Beidou, and I forgot one more who it is. Is it a healer or a shield? I forgot already. It's something like this. So this is actually the first generation of Child, like when he play Electro Charge, when there's still no like Vaporize or something released yet. And for now, you can also play Bloom. Like since Danger is released, you can probably put Chao, Nahida, and someone else. Like you can play Bloom or Hyper Bloom or Burgeon. Yeah, depends on people. Like for Chao, there are also like a variety of teams for you to discover. Depends on your playstyle. So I forgot to tell you the team rotation. So for the team rotation, you have probably seen people, or me specifically. So I played Child National last time, and so this is Child, for example. All right, Bennett, Xiangling, and Kazuha. So what do I really do is I would normally Bennett first, and I will Xiangling, and I will Kazuha. Like so, I'll apply Pyro and swap Pyro, and then when I swap back to Child, okay, so when I swap back to Child, what I really do is I use the elemental burst before I enter melee stance. Like most people, I know what you will do. You all will just tend to swap, like go on field, swap melee stance, and just slash all of them, and then you end with a burst. That's most Child mains I've saw what they do. So what you actually want to do with Child is uh like you're supposed like why do I say I press the Q first before I enter melee stance? So do you still remember what I said just now? That his second ascension talent that most people probably neglected. So it says when Tartaglia is in Fall Legacy Raging Tides melee stance, on dealing a crit hit, normal and charge attack apply the Riptide status effect to opponents. So it means that if you are using this, like if you really do care about this, means that you probably need to stack crit hit if you want to enter melee stance immediately and start slashing people. For those who don't build crit, who focus more on crit damage, I will recommend you guys to press Q first, because why? Yeah, it says range stance. It fires a like Hydro Magic Arrow dealing AoE and also applying the Riptide status. Means that for those who don't have high crit rate, or who don't have like who didn't really build crit or anything, you can just like instantly apply Riptide status with elemental burst. And also when you use it, you'll instantly like get energy return like 20, which is the 60 like one and a third one, yeah, one third out of it, which is actually quite good for rotations. Like if you, for example, if you use your range like elemental burst state, you will probably like return energy and you will probably start slashing with your elemental skill. So after slashing with your elemental skill, of course you will produce energy particles, which means you can probably like get 60 energy again, and while the cooldown finish in your elemental skill state, which is like right 15 seconds, you can release again for your elemental burst, which is the melee stands for elemental burst. You will get another 464%, meanwhile also triggering the Riptide Blast. And after doing this rotation, you can probably just swap him out for the elemental skill cooldown and like do rotations, and meanwhile waiting for this to come back up. So a lot of people like, they don't build crit, and then they'll like, nah, child is shit, like his damage is falling off. Not really. So his damage is not really falling off. Like his mechanics are so special that not all of his damage are focused on normal and charge attacks like most other characters. His damage, I mean, yeah, he's that like his elemental skill and burst does damage, but still his Riptide deals a lot more damage compared to just like normal attack and charge attack and then elemental burst and stuff. Not really. So his Riptide is another alternative like in damage income. Yeah, that's probably why. So for his artifacts, it's actually quite fed up. I'm still triggered when I see a lot of people giving 4-piece Heart of Death. I honestly, I'm quite speechless. So for Childe now, I mean Tartaglia, we have multiple artifact choices. So first you can go for 15 plus 18, which is the Heart of Death. What's my Heart of Death? Yeah, the Heart of Death adds 2-piece hydro damage bonus, and 2-piece Gladiator. What's a Gladiator? Yeah, you can go 2-piece Gladiator, or you can go like 2-piece Echoes, 2-piece Vermilion, or 2-piece Shimenawa, or you can also go for 2-piece Noblesse Oblige. So for 2-piece Noblesse Oblige, you will be focusing more on the elemental burst damage. Why would I say 2 plus 2 is actually better? So as I said just now that not only his normal and charge attack or elemental burst deals damage, but also he have another source of damage income, which is the Riptide. So therefore, 4-piece Heart of Death is definitely not the best, as it says after using elemental skill increases normal attack and charge attack damage by 30% for 15 seconds. Although some people may think like, oh, this is good, like you can fit the timing and you can like remind yourself about like you need to swap away, but by using this, yeah, you increase your normal attack and charge attack damage, but at the same time you're also giving up your Riptide damage, which is actually another good potential of damage income. So in my personal opinion, 4-piece Noblesse, I mean 2 plus 2 is actually better, like for 15 plus 18 or 18 plus 18 or 18 plus 20%. So it depends on person. So whatever I do, I don't really recommend Heart of Death for 4-piece. So 2 plus 2 is always better. Until now, there are no specific like any 4-piece like design for him. Like, I mean, some people think that Heart of Death is 4-piece fits him, but in my personal opinion, no, just no. Right. So for his stats, Flower Feather, as usual, flat HP and flat attack. And for his sense, you'll probably want to go for attack percent or EM sense. Yeah, attack percent or EM sense depends on person. And for his goblet, you can go for like either attack percent or hydro damage bonus, because he ascends with hydro damage bonus instead of crit real crit damage. So therefore, stacking too much hydro damage bonus on him is not a too good thing. And for the circlet, depends on person the way you want to build him. Like if you don't want to rotation Q, like you burst before you enter melee stance, you can build crit rate probably, so you can proc Riptide status in his like melee stance state. Or if you use elemental burst to gain Riptide, then yeah, you can consider building crit rate or something. But you need to think of a way to like fix your ER problem. You can probably give, should I say ER sense? ER sense, since like you already have Hydro damage bonus, so you can probably give like an attack percent circlet, attack percent goblet, and ER sense or something to fix your ER problem or whatever. Right. So that's pretty much all I want to say about Childe and Miko for this banner. So yeah, it's already 51 minutes for this video. So it's actually quite a lot I want to say in this video, but like yeah, that's all. It's actually quite a lot. So for what I want to say is, I mean, a lot of people are going to like like trash talk, like no, you don't even have Miko, you don't even have Childe or something. Alright, so for those who are trash talking, say I don't have Miko, I shouldn't judge. Okay, right, I don't have Miko. I didn't really criticize her and judge her or anything. Right. So for Childe, I think I technically said most of my experiences from all the way I played. Like I after so long I finally know how Childe works and how Tartaglia rotation and everything. So actually got there are people who judge me like, you don't even know how to play Childe, you don't even know how he works. I mean, it's I know how it works, that's why I play him like that. That's why. Therefore, like sometimes people are just like you need to, even if I don't own the character, but I did have the experience playing him. It's not like I don't have the character and I don't play it. I make judgments about the character. If I don't have the character and I don't play him or her, I will only make reviews or guides or analysis. I won't judge the character. Right. So that's pretty much all I want to say about in this video. Actually quite fed up. Yep. So that's all about this video. And peace, I guess.